Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.
Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast. And we definitely up and rolling, transitioning over to fall. And when we transition to fall, we think about a lot of different things. Changes, new beginnings, but really here in Michigan, we thinking about what are we doing as it gets colder, making sure that you protect yourself. And protecting yourself includes a lot of different things. And the guest today talks a whole lot about some of those ways that, you may think you're protected, but ways to get protected, and many other things too. So today is somebody that's a client, and when I think about it, like friends of the family, her brother is like my brother in arms, one of the coolest people. He's been here before, but now we talking about her. It's Corina Malone. How you feeling today?
I'm well. How are you, Kari? Thanks for having me on.
Everything is cool. Everything is cool.
That's what's up.
Usually when we're interacting, it's you calling shots. You may be one of you hear so much about different people handling things in business and like being around the same age, just managing different companies.
Yes.
Physical therapy. Also, now you're into like major waste disposal.
Absolutely.
Also, like you were like one of the first people I saw really into smoothies for health, different health concerns and different things like that. Just a person that sees the umbrella in many things, but it all makes sense to you, and all of it has been a success. So I do tip my hat to that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's good to have good people around that see what we're doing, and we're not just out here working, but actually making a difference in the community. So that that's a blessing.
Most definitely. So like with that preface, I already know. And then you're a woman, a few words usually, because it's usually always business. It's always like you
mostly
between two calls, like, hey, did the money get there? Okay, send the invoice.
Yeah, I shut the phones down.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So that's right now. But I already know the invoices is going and the receivables, the payables, it's always balancing. You know what I'm saying? So with that, let's get into more of your Detroit story. Your background, family. What brought your family to the city of Detroit? And how far back?
So we're here. We were born and raised in Detroit. My family has been in Detroit for generations, more generations than I can even count.
Okay.
Our great-grandparents were here. Our grandparents were here. A lot of our family, of course, worked in the plants, things of that nature. But, our family is bred off of just, being hustlers. We are native Detroiters, all of us, from my mom's side to my dad's side. We were all born and raised in Detroit. So, Detroit is home, definitely. I've had a chance to move away for a few years, and I always revert back to the D. You know what I mean? So our family has actually done a lot of things in Detroit, from entertainment to real estate to retail. I mean, we've had our hand in so many bags in so many different avenues. Like I said, going all the way back to my great grandparents. So we are Detroit bred. Proud and true thoroughbreds for real. So yeah.
Yeah, y'all took the Thanksgiving Day Monopoly and made it like real life. It was like,
life.
Okay, for real.
Yeah, we trying to get our
boardwalks
and our
se, but we about to take this corner a 6 mile. We're
Absolutely.
Gonna take that a 7 mile. We're gonna take this a Plymouth and just lock it down.
Absolutely.
What neighborhood do you remember growing up in?
Well, we don't, me and my brother always laugh at this. We don't really claim a particular neighborhood because we've been so well versed in the city. We started, me and my brother, from our early beginnings, we started on the east side of Detroit. Shout out to the east side.
Whereabouts?
We grew up in McDonald Square, but prior to that, when I was born, we were like on Burns and Main, and so we were east siders in the beginning.
When do you remember the east side, like when you were a kid, like that neighborhood? Do you remember it?
Well, when I was around 7, we moved to McDonald Square, which is a subsidized housing complex right off of Shane. And so we were there from the time I was 7 all the way till about 13 or something like that.
Those are like some formative years
Absolutely.
in the childhood. What do you remember being a kid over in that neighborhood?
Oh, it's funny because we were displaced a lot, moving around, and for us to have something stable, it was our first, I could say, really stable environment. And so, I was out. I loved it. I was so happy to have my own room, to be around other kids. I didn't care if it was considered, projects or whatever. For me, it was like something stable. So it was our first stable home. My brother, it was me and my brother at the time, and my mom. And my brother, he knows no one, over there. He didn't want to connect. He was like, no. He used to go over to my grandmother's house all the time. But it was a beautiful community neighborhood. I did everything over there. We had a community center where, they would have all of the holiday events for the kids in the area. I was very close with a lot of the people from McDonald Square. It was my formative years, so for me, it was home. McDonald Square is where I would say that I started and where I actually, started to become the woman that I am today, for sure. I still have lifelong friends that I deal with from McDonald Square that are some of the closest people to my heart, and it was a hard time. So, everybody in McDonald Square was going through a hard time. So to be able to think back and remember all of the laughs, the smiles, the barbecues, things like that, it was good. For me, I didn't realize it was the hood. For me, it was just home, so.
And when you talk about that, like especially like those ages, a lot I do believe formulates in your personality, your character.
Absolutely.
How you have like, this weekend my kid sister was here and we were just going through stories of like, I was telling her, I'm like, you're gonna learn from this because I know a lot of how I handle business, me personally. I feel deals is an extension of how we played together as children.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of dynamics in just the way we would communicate and connect and things like that. So when you think about like those friends and then really kind of getting those friends on your own because your older brother was like, no, he was so old that his mind was probably like,
it was already formed.
I got my friends over here. I don't like these people. Blah, blah,
we're
blah,
five.
blah,
We're 5 years apart. So for him, he grew up in Plymouth Square. So our great grandmother was from Plymouth Square, Plymouth and Evergreen, and he mostly hung out and grew out in that area. His best friends were in that area. But by the time I'm 7, he's 12.
Yep.
So for him, he's like, oh, my friends are over there. And eventually he got more, acclimated to the environment and open to it, absolutely. Because I knew everyone in the neighborhood.
I was gonna say, that means that now you kind of, even as a little sister, kind of become a big sister.
Absolutely.
You knew,
I knew
you
everyone.
driving down the street and people be like,
yes. Yes. And I actually have a younger sister as well, who I believe I believe she was born when we were over there in McDonald Square. So, that was her true origins. Wow. And so I was able to be a little sister as well as a big sister. So, I was, and I would take my sister on bike rides with it. You know how the neighborhood gets together, had those bike rides. We were really, really close. McDonald Square has all these different circles, So, and when I say that, I mean like the way that it's positioned. You go inside the driveway, you go around the whole circle, and there's people living there. So we were very close with all the people in our circle, even the neighboring circles. And my cousins lived in the next circle. So, for us, it was, it was like, hey, we're here,
So for people that, are unfamiliar with McDonald Square, because I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
And that's part of, it's so weird. It's like when we think East Side Detroit, for most people, it's like two parts of the East Side. Yep. It's either like, do you live by the airport? Which is so weird because it's almost like everything.
I know, right?
By the airport.
Everything.
It's like, okay, you realize there's 4 sides to this. You know what I'm saying? You could be by Randazzles, or
exactly.
you could be over here by the Fago company.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That's
absolutely.
a whole different world.
Yeah. I have family over there as well. You know what I mean? So shout out to them.
So it's that, but McDonald Square, I look at as more like the downtown-ish.
It is
part of the East Side, because sometimes you can even get you forget that like all of this is still like technically the east side, though it
Absolutely.
feels like downtown.
Yeah, everything across Woodward is the east side, is what I consider. And it's funny because I feel like we're always at this borderline, but that was just one of the places. We did grow up previously, on the east side before, but McDonald Square is really, truly, east side, because what happens is that, when you're going into neighborhoods or playing with other kids, you're not going downtown. No. You know what I mean? You're not going to the way of downtown. You're going to McDougal. You know what I mean? You're going to Kercheval. You're going to East Grand Boulevard. You're going to I forget what they call it. It was the Heidelberg Project area. Yeah. But these areas weren't Heidelberg Project then. You know what I mean? We're riding. Our bike rides consisted of us riding through those neighborhoods, seeing those doll houses and the dots on the street. The creativity before it was even recognized. So when people think about McDonald Square, a lot of times we're going into the neighborhoods further, deeper east when we were hanging out. And of course, the good thing about it is that you're able to experience downtown, So when we did a lot of different things, we were downtown, like things at Shank Park, and we were very, very closely knitted to downtown. We always were on Belle Isle and things like that. But on the opposite end, a lot of our family was still on the east side. A lot of our family was still in the neighborhoods. And McDonald Square, don't get it twisted, it's a hard place to live. It is. It looks a lot nicer now, and they built a lot of condominiums and things like that around McDonald Square. But McDonald Square is 2 minutes from the King homes. You know what I mean? That's where we played a lot. A lot of my friends were from the King homes. So, it's like saying King homes isn't downtown. I mean, isn't on the east side. It is situated downtown. But, once you start hanging out and going to the schools and things of that area, it takes you further east. And I think people who are from that area kind of know the connection. You know what I mean? So I think that they realize how hard it is just on that side of town, period. You know what I mean? Because for one, it's kind of like I lived in the D.C. before, so it's kind of like being 5 minutes from the White House. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a bunch of neighborhoods in D.C. in Southeast that are literally, they're looking at the White House, you know what I mean?
The Capitol building.
The Capitol building, the memorial and things like that. And they're the worst schools in the nation. So it was one of those type of things. You get to see good things, kind of, sort of, because Detroit really is just now, downtown is just now kind of coming back. But, I think it gave us two different perspectives.
And that's what I would definitely always think, as Belle Isle is one of the gems of Detroit, but it's always different for the people even around Belle Isle. Like how they'll go and engage and just, like you always, you talk
the
about
Giant
the
Slide
people.
was my second home. You know what I mean? Being a kid at the age that I was, we wanted to experience those things. And so, our parents, we come from humble beginnings. So, I think my mom was excited to move down there, not just for the stability, but she's like, it's opportunities. Like if we don't have a car, we could still have access to some of the events, the fireworks, the African American Festival. It's a lot of history downtown as well. So so that was good. But but we in McDonald Square, so it was rough. We didn't see all of that at all times, but it was good to be very close to it.
Okay, so from there, high school, where do you transition and move, and what's that journey?
So it's funny because growing up, my grandmother and my grandfather, they actually, started moving and transitioning out of Detroit, and they were one of the first families to move into Southfield. So when we moved into McDonald Square, we were just leaving from Southfield, but we were living in the basement. And, a lot of my grandmother was having drug abuse problems and things like that. So even though they were in Southfield, it was still a chaotic home front for us. So we went, my point in saying that is that we went to Southfield schools. So even though my mom, because of the fact that we were living there, and then when we went to McDonald Square, we still went to Southfield schools.
So you were always making that journey.
We were always making
that.
Man, what? So this is, and I shout out to my mom, because when I think about it now, my kid's school is like 10 minutes away, 15, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to get up, and take them to school, and to actually make those opportunities available for us is very commendable. But yeah, we took a 30 to 40 minute drive every day from all the way downtown to Southfield. We actually went to elementary. I went to elementary at Brace Letterly, which is an elementary school on 9 Mile, Levy on 9 Mile and Telegraph, and even Southfield High on Lasser and 10 Mile.
Okay.
And my last year when I was in the 12th grade, so Southfield is also my home. You know, I'm not afraid to say that, you know, but I was always one of those kids who lived in Detroit but went to Southfield schools, you know. But I was very, very closely connected with a lot of people in Southfield communities because when my mom was at work or things like that, our uncles and our aunt would watch us. We'd be at our grandmother's house because my mom was trying to fend for us. But my last year, I ended up, you know, I guess you could say turning into, you know, a bad girl somewhat.
You weren't as focused.
I wasn't as focused, you know, and so yeah, so you know, and I've always been smart into all types of programs, but I ended up getting kicked out of Southfield like the first month of 12th grade year, which is like devastating because you're about to graduate with all your friends. It's like, but I did end up, and I went to Mumford. Which clearly was a total different experience for me, you know. And so when I got to Mumford, even though I had lived in Detroit, I had never went to school in Detroit. And if anybody knows, going to school in the suburbs versus going to school in the city is totally different. You know, it was a lot of girls there that were pregnant and this and that, and it was metal detectors when you came in, and you know, it was just a difference for me, you know. But I made it. By that time, I was living on my own, so you know.
All right, so from there, and then you're now on your own. What sparks the entrepreneurial journey? You know?
So I will say this, you know, we have been blessed to follow behind a lot of trailblazers. You know, it's been a lot of trailblazing. When I was younger and we were living in McDonald Square, my mom actually has started a retail business called Grab Bag Unisex.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit, because even in your mom, what was the, you know, because sometimes we'll start businesses and not even necessarily know it's a business as much as it's like, you know, it's people interested in it and I'll pay for it.
Right.
And, you know, people end up in this position as it grows into that.
Yeah.
What sparked your mom even into doing something creative like that?
Well, my mom was, she's the older sister of all of her siblings.
How many?
She has, by her mom, she has 4 siblings. She also has 1 sibling by her dad, but that's funny because they all kind of grew up together, so it was no separation between them. She's 10 years older than her next youngest sibling. So when I say the big sister, she's literally the big sister.
So
you know?
She's like pseudo mama.
Yeah. So she's like second mom type thing. And so for her, she was kind of had a privileged life. She actually went to Immaculata, which is now Marygrove College. When she was in high school, she moved to San Diego with a scholarship and things like that. So she was kind of living a not spoiled life, but a more affluent life. And after, you know, our family got deeply in drug use, you know, it kind of reverted back to, you know, that kind of dreadful spirit, I guess, or, you know, living means. And anyway, so she had been used to good things. And so I think it was very hard for her, especially after my father went to prison, it was very hard for her to adapt. And I think that just her hustler spirit kind of made her like, hey, listen, I want to get back to those nice things I used to have. I want to get back to, you know, being someone in this world, because she was supposed to, the idea was that she would go to San Diego and become great. And she moved back here and had my brother, you know, because she didn't stay in California. And so for her, and then she fell in love with my dad, and he went to prison. He's still in prison. And I think that was just very traumatic for her. So it took her a long time to get over these things. She had suffered drug abuse by that time. And, you know, a lot of failed relationships, a lot of, you know, displacement and things like that. So I think, you know, the need or the thirst to want to have your own finally after so long was the determining factor of why she wanted to start that.
Do you think it was... Do you think it was like a level of like guilt in some of that decision that led to her like staying there? As you know, when people talk about drug, like our nation, you know, America's a nation that drugs are very prevalent in these
Yes,
nations. So,
yes.
like, I mean,
Especially
whether
for
you look
Detroit.
at it legally or quote unquote illegal, like whether a doctor's prescribing it or a street pharmacist is prescribing
Exactly.
it, because usually, you go from the doctor prescribing something to
Exactly.
you no
To
longer
drug
can get the
use.
script.
Exactly,
And now
yeah.
you got to go to a street pharmacist. You know what I'm saying?
I
So,
think
like,
that all these things played a major part. I will say this, I will be honest and say that my family, like I said, they've always had a hustler spirit, and a lot of them came from not just drug use, but the drug game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and that's kind of being an entrepreneur. So she did see this, so this isn't something new for her to see. My grandmother, she had she was a jack of all trades. She would have my mother at 18. And but nothing ever stopped her. She always lived fancy and this and that. And, the drugs actually took her down, but they never lost that spirit, And I think I could say for a lot of black women, especially in Detroit, coming from Detroit, because we come from the days of Aretha Franklin and Michael Jackson and Motown and, nice cars and things like that. They always wanted to look good and look their best. And so my grandmother was definitely one of those types. So my mother did see that. And we just come from that. My grandmother was the same way. And we're a matriarch family. Our family was raised by mostly women. We had a lot of boys, but we were raised, the heads of our family were all women. So we kind of piggybacked off that. She had my grandmother to look at. She also had 2 aunts to look at. And I think it made her kind of thirst for it. But this was kind of like her way of doing it legally.
Yeah.
We don't want to be a part of that anymore. She was a recovering addict at this time. And like I think about it all the time. Shouts goes out to her because coming from drug use so soon after, fighting an addiction and being successful at it, she came straight out, with her feet hitting the ground, trying to figure out what can I do? How can I stay off the streets? How can I not do this? So, even though she wanted the best things in life, I think it was more so survival. I think it was more so about not getting back to that. It was, it was a hard thing to overcome, and it wasn't just one person in our family. It's a lot of people in our family using drugs, and when you have other people that you have this common ground with, is a lot harder when it's like your brother or for her, not her brothers and her sisters, but her aunts and her uncles are the same age as her. So and her mom, so.
And it's interesting that you bring that up. I remember when I interviewed Street Lord Rook. And we spoke a little bit about this, and this is what's so unique of like growing up on a block. Like I remember Big James and Little James, and Big James was the first person as a child I didn't know what crack was. So this may have been like, I don't know, like 86, 87
exactly.
or something. And he was the first person to sell it, but like it's hard to frame the lifestyle of Lil James, like my homie Lil James, because sometimes it would be very high highs.
Absolutely.
Like an abundance of money, an abundance of, but then it would be low lows where like I remember sometimes we would get like, man, this is like personal, but it's just real. Like we would stack buckets of water just to make sure that they can have water. Sometimes.
Yeah.
But
wow.
on the upside, it would be like heavy upsides, like new cars, you know what I'm saying? Like, on a good day, you want, ice cream truck, Choco Taco.
Absolutely. Anything you can get.
That you ever wanted would have been there. But then when things got tight, it was because it's just, I mean, as most people know, I mean, just crime itself, if you know any criminal, and this is anything. It's not like business. You're not signing contracts to say, okay, for 3 years, every month, I'm going to invoice this and get this much money.
Absolutely.
It's a very...
I resonate with that
full of a lot of anxiety and up and down.
Absolutely.
And,
constant back and forth, it almost seems like. I resonate with that so well because that's like the story of our family. I mean, if you talk to Street Lord Rook, then you would know, and if you had the opportunity to talk to anybody else, they would tell you the same story because we've all pretty much had the same story. Our family has been a lot of highs and a lot of lows. Like I said, my grandmother, she's the oldest of her siblings, and so they looked up to her, and she found so many ways to make money and live a lavish life. Hence, moving to Southfield and. So we understood that was there, but by the time I had got to be 6, 7, 8, it was already a bad situation. So luckily we had things in the beginning that kind of sustained us, you know. So we had that house. That house was a big part of all of our lives because it was the cousins, the aunts, you know, her sisters, so we were all a part of that house in Southfield, and that's why we were all, I think everybody in my family probably either went to Southfield or was a part of Southfield in some way. But it was a lot of bad times there as well, you know, with the drug use. Her husband ended up going to prison and getting a life sentence. So, you know, I think one of the best things I like saying about my family is that we're resilient. Yeah. You know, that we definitely have a way of falling off and coming back on. We can lose it all and get it right back. You know, that's our thing, kind of like our motto. We can lose it all and get it right back. You know, that's deep. You know, everything. I looked at a couple interviews that my cousin Streeler Rook did, and it was kind of nostalgic. Like, wow, you know, like putting it on the surface and showing that angle, you know, like, you know, everything is the truth. You know what I mean? But we've had high highs, and a lot of people look at that. They think that it's only highs. Yeah. You know, but to me, I think that life is almost mostly lows, or not lows, but it's like you always just trying to fight there. But those are the good parts in life, you know what I mean? Because the best days that you have are the ones fighting to, you know, get the podcast off, or when we were building Premier Care, or when we're just doing things that feels like a struggle, but you know it's coming. You know, we have faith that it'll work out. So, you know, that's kind of our story, you know, like falling off and getting back on. I can't lie.
When I mentioned them, I had no idea that you guys were related. So that means you're related to Baba Mike, too.
Yeah.
Now
you know,
it more makes sense, because I was like, oh, it's told Baba Mike
my mother's brother, her next sibling that was closest to her in 10 years in age was Yacht from the Street Lords, which they call the Black Press, who died in 2020. Rest in peace, Unc. And so, you know, our family is connected in a lot of ways, and people for a long time people didn't even know Corey and I were brother and sister. You know what I mean? But that's another way of just showing how you know, they were doing bad, and then Kenyatta took it and kind of flipped the family back over again and turned it all around when he came up with Big Black Records, you know.
And with that, just back to that entrepreneurial spirit, kind of back to the story of your mom.
Exactly.
So these unisex bags, what was she packaging them? How did she know that they could sell? What was the pricing point? Like, how did she go about this marketing of this item? You know what I'm saying? 'Cause really, when you say that's really starting from scratch.
So this is funny, and you know, like when I everything I say is honest, and I know you know that, but I'm just saying that to say, because like when I tell you the story, it's like it's kind of like it's hard to believe nowadays, but I say that because so back then, my mom had got with her husband, who she's with now. They've been married for about 20 so years, and
shout out to that.
Yeah, shout out. So she turned her life around, but they got together and they were both recovering addicts, and I think they both were like, hey, like, what can we do? We can't get back in the streets. We can't get back to, you know, doing all these drug activities or whatever it may be to keep us down in the slums. What can we do? And I think what they came up with was grab bag unisex. So what they did was that they got on the road. A lot of times with us and all together, you know, it's probably 6, 7 kids, you know what I mean? And we would drive
that right there sounds like,
that right there is crazy, but that was an adventure.
A trying patience of an adult.
Oh my God.
I can only imagine 6 kids.
Yeah, I mean, driving to New York, you know, and they're driving to New York to purchase items, you know. Okay. And so somehow or another, don't ask me how, they used to get up with Dapper Dan. And so we would go to Dapper Dan's. Yep, it's a crazy story, but we would go to Dapper Dan's home, which reminds me kind of this, because it would be his home, but he turned the whole basement into, I mean, not a sweatshop, but you know, people were down there like sewing and this and that. You know, Dapper Dan was a genius.
So
like,
let me
go
for
ahead.
People that don't know, Dapper Dan is the what I'm gonna say.
How would you describe it? Yeah,
I'm gonna say he's definitely a fashion designer, but what he did was he altered high-end, like Italian or European fashions that are seen or labeled as high-end from Western standards of fashion.
Absolutely.
And he customized them more to a like and sensibility of what Black people loved wearing, urban wear. So like when you think of like any of those classic Mike Tyson's pictures, when he has on leathers, they're Dapper Dan. The classic fight Mike Tyson had with I'm forgetting the dude with the Jerry curl. That was right outside Dapper Dan's store. So like he would basically take like Gucci patterns, Louis Vuitton patterns, and
I mean the stuff that you're seeing on
social
media
really
now.
alter it where it's like, oh, I can salt and pepper now can wear it because the making, as I've debated this all the time too. A lot of these Italian European designs that black folks like, and I think they like it because it just costs so much money, were not designed for the curves of a black woman or the shoulders of a black man. It's designed for, European bodies.
Absolutely.
So to make it, you need to alter it a certain way.
Yep.
Hence, like when people say, oh man, Versace don't make a shirt Rick Ross's size, which in certain ways is some merit to that truth. I'm sure that he can pay, but that's where you get someone like a Dapper Dan. To alter it, where now it's like, oh, I can wear that and I'm not going to feel like, I don't know, 007.
Exactly. But you know what? I mean, they're doing that all the time on social media now. If you go on social media, you can go on Instagram and you can find people who are taking literally the bags that your shoes come in, making full-blown puff coats, And this was Dapper Dan's specialty,
yes.
So when we went out there and they were like, my mom's husband, he's like, he also comes from humble beginnings, but he made a way for himself before he started using. And so, he loves the sharp, coats and shoes and jackets. And Dapper Dan just put them together. So he's in there like customizing stuff. And so they had these, came up with these white Gucci jackets that they would have, leather jackets that they would have. And I mean, they took off, because, and back then, if you go to New York back then, of course, everybody knows that this stuff is not coming directly from Louis, but Dapper Dan is not. It's Louis products, it's Louis things, but he's not. He's detaching jeans, he's detaching shirts and jackets and making it how he wanted to make it. And so when people would see it, they're like, wow, they want it, and no matter what, like you could say whatever, and I mean, we coming back with cases and cases and of jackets, and then eventually the Cartiers. I like to believe that my family is probably the originator of wood frame Cartier glasses.
Well, I can definitely tell you the Street Lords helped sell. After that, their first album, I think that like it was, people would talk about it because it was weird. It was like, I remember guys would have like iceberg shirts and some Cartier, and then it's like after their first album, it was like, oh,
that everybody. It was like now
you don't have some Cardis on, and
and now it's and now it's it's the trademark to Detroit almost.
Oh,
most definitely. Now people think that we are the epicenter of Cartiers, which in some regards are true. But
I would love to like look at their books and sales and like look at like especially like the Somerset sales of like versus the rest of the nation and really maybe even the world, like how much per capita is sold here. Hence, like that's why like as an entrepreneur, it's like on two levels, especially as I'm not in the designer goods, I'm more into this tech stuff. But
same.
Like in the designer goods world, I always, as people are applauding Gucci, it's like what reciprocity comes even for the people here in the city of Detroit. Like if Cartier is like if this much of a margin of their gross profits comes from Detroit, some reciprocity should come to the Detroit.
What are our gains? What are our benefits for basically putting on? And I mean, when people think of it, like even when people buy them, they shout out Detroit. When people buy them and they take them here, I got my, and they feel like they're from Detroit when they put the Cartiers on. And my mom and my stepdad, I can say definitely put that down in Detroit. They had gold and platinum wood grain Cardis that they were selling. So that was their main thing. Gucci, Cardis, and they were getting it all from Dapper Dan.
Wow.
You know what deep. I mean? That is deep. Like when I look back at it, right? And so I'm looking now, because back then I'd be like, oh, that New York stuff. Everybody does that. But New York has their thing. If you're only from New York, you can only really understand the level of who Dapper Dan was.
Yeah.
When we're here and we're trying to tell people, oh, no, this is from Dapper Dan, they don't get it, because Dapper Dan, even though Louis Vuitton and Gucci just gave him his respect.
Yes, but it took a long time.
It took too long. Yeah. Let's be honest. It took way too long, and it's almost like now they kind of brought him in just so he could stop, kind of getting that on the side. If you ask me, but he's been doing it a long time. And if you go to New York, you ask anybody in New York, They knew who Dapper Dan was. All the drug dealers, or like you said, all of the rappers, Salt and Pepper and all that. They going to Dapper Dan. They wasn't going to Louis because, like you said, it wasn't urban wear. It wasn't, when you look, it was all, for them like dorky or this. It just didn't fit our bodies. It didn't fit our culture. It didn't fit what we were doing. And my mom brought some of that back to Detroit with her first business. Yeah.
So with that business, that definitely is tapping back into also, and that is one of the toughest things I think about a lot of the people I know from my family and friends just in recovery is you're in a life where it kind of defines your life. The culture's around you. And that's some of the highs. So when you're on a high, let me get this Gucci coat.
Exactly.
Here go another. Al Wassam would not be Al Wassam if you take Detroit away. I don't know if Al Wassam is becoming the Al Wassam staple if it was based in Kansas City.
Exactly. It would.
But it's like, I need an Al Wizzy just to celebrate the victory of what I went through.
Absolutely.
To look and feel a certain way, to exude that.
Yeah, it's a code of honor, putting on your Al Wassam. And I think for us, it's even bigger because, the name of Detroit is different. And that's real. Detroit is different. And I feel like it's always been Detroit versus everybody. You know what I mean? Because we didn't get recognition for a lot of things, even though we are the car capital. We started the car industry. We started Motown. We did so many things. So I think it's not only the spirit, the entrepreneurial spirit is not just for my family or for people whose family have done or shown what they've done. I think it's for our city, period. If you come from Detroit, you want to, before it was just you want to have good money, when they were working at the plants and stuff. But like now, everybody now is like, that's what we do. We think of new ideas and we get it done, so.
And to that point, I was just saying, like, I tip my hat further to your mother and her husband, because that means they had to re-involve themselves in the world that they kind of walked away from, but in a safe space, because that becomes usually one of the toughest things in recovery. Yeah. It's like, I was talking to like one of my uncles, one of my big homies,
right?
That's struggled on and off, and it was like, sometimes it ain't even the using as much as it's the culture of it. It's
Absolutely.
The people around, they know you. It's the, we can come up on this, we can beat them out of that. You know what I mean? And then to involve yourself back in it, and to know how to do that at arm's length, it takes a lot.
It's
of
not
discipline.
easy. Not only does it take a lot of discipline, but my grandmother used to tell me, because at one point my grandmother and my mother were like using together, which of course is like, imagine, having an addiction with your parent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so much harder to break away because your parent usually is the one fighting for you and saying, hey, come back on this side, don't do that. This is that, And so for my mom, she had two parents who both ended up being drug abusers. And so it was very hard for her. But I think that my grandmother told me all the time, hey, listen, because I was like, oh, mommy, now she's living good, whatever. And I'm like, we call her mommy. I said, mommy, have some wine with me. I think I turned 21 or whatever, And she's like, listen, every day is a struggle. I'm no longer, just the person I was. I'm a recovering addict every day of my life. No matter how far removed I'm away from it. Every day I fight not to have a cigarette. Every day I fight not to have a drink. Every day I fight not to have crack, And she was saying that basically stuff like the wine and the cigarettes are a trigger.
Yeah.
It brings her back into that using mode. And so she had to let all things go. So, to say, and my family dealt with it a lot. But it's families. It's so many.
As we see, like I say, I think
From
it's a part of
Detroit.
American culture.
It is.
It's just dependent upon what the drug or what the cut can
but
be.
But Detroit
because,
City was so involved in the drug trade. Yeah. You know what I mean? We were one of the cities where, like, if you, I'm just assuming, right? You got the cartel out there, like, about to come bring drugs into America. I'm sure Detroit was one of their cities. Like, make sure it goes there.
This is,
So.
To a lot of people, our port to Windsor is the busiest port in America.
In America.
So it being the busiest port, that means probably everything that could be positive for people to get comes, and then certain things that can be detrimental to certain people comes as well. Also, you have a different spirit within that, which kind of pivots me now to physical therapy.
Okay.
In that business. And what that is you have a center like right in the heart of a Detroit community.
Absolutely.
Like right off 6
Fitzgerald.
Mile, not far from not far from Mumford. You know what I'm saying? Like in that footprint.
Yep.
And pain is one of those things right now, like in the arcs of what people deal with. You're healing people from some of these pains, as opposed to looking to medicate away the pain.
Absolutely.
That, has led to what is labeled now like an opioid crisis.
Absolutely.
That exists. So how do you get into that business? Why was it important? And then what impact does it have on you now of seeing that growing up? But a person that like is kind of between like both places, a rock and a hard place. As we know most people from surgery is like you can take the pain pill or you can try to heal without the pain pill.
Absolutely.
So
for me, it's funny because me getting into physical therapy actually came from a close friend of the family who I called my uncle, very dear to us, from Southfield as well. So he grew up with my uncles and my aunt mostly. And he kind of called me, hey, I need you to help me come run my physical therapy clinic. I'm like, what the hell? I don't know nothing. I'm in school for biomedical engineering. And so I'm like, I don't know, and I'm busy. I don't have time for that. But long story short is that he had got shot a few times. And so he had a number of ailments. And he was actually an addict. What I look back now is as an addict, he was prescribed, but the pain was so intense for him that, he used these drugs more often than he probably should. But, for him, he's like, listen, I'm in this deep pain.
And this can take the pain away.
And this could take the pain away. It will take the pain away if I just take it, so that you have to definitely have a certain level of strength to say, hey, look, I'm not taking pain medication. I saw Lil Duval just got into an accident. He said, I'm doing this no pain medication. And that's really commendable because at the end of the day, it's very hard to do that. It's very hard. And so anyway, he had just came off crutches. And so I helped him with this physical therapy clinic, and I got involved with that. And then eventually my mom got a clinic, and my aunt got a clinic, and my cousin got a clinic, so it was all these things. And then I ended up being like, hey, I might as well do it myself. But I had a degree in biomedical engineering, so I'm like, am I going to use that? Am I not? And then I ended up falling upon physical therapy, a business that I had been in for the past decade. So, and then when I thought about it, so we got the physical therapy clinic. In the beginning, it's just like, physical therapy. But then I thought about it like, wow, I actually made ours a multi-specialty. That, you have taxonomy codes where you have to basically choose what type of industry this is or what type of business this is. And instead of just say, hey, this is physical therapy, I did multi-specialty because I wanted to do things like substance abuse programs, weight loss programs, counseling. I wanted it to be a hub for, like you said, treating and rehabilitating on more than just one level. So if you get into an accident, you can come here. If you get into substance abuse, you can come here. And just by telling you a small part of my history, you could probably see why pain was important for me. And I'm not really dealing with necessarily like pain management, but physical therapy is such an important part of getting you rehabilitated when you have some type of injury to the body, and not only physical therapy, but I'm like, okay, we healing the body. Is there any way we can heal the mind? So with that being said, we wanted to offer, be kind of multifaceted. And we wanted to offer more services. And so I'm like, hey, let's, do free yoga. We have weight loss programs that we also do called Young at Heart. So we try to have classes. We have an annual health fair. It was just important for me. And we didn't choose Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald kind of chose us because one of my uncles, my mom's youngest, I think it's her youngest brother, whatever, he actually owned that building, and we had an opportunity to buy it. And we were like, hey, let's do it. And when we did it, I turned around and looked at the community I was in like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? This is a disadvantaged community. When COVID came, they were one of the top communities that suffered from positive test results and deaths. So when I turned around, I looked at where we were. I thought it was just a great opportunity to offer more things than just just coming in somebody's community and saying, hey, you know what? I have a business here. You guys should come to my business and come to physical because it's right here on your corner because it's down the street. I'm like, you know what? Let's offer services to the community that they could benefit from. So like at our health fairs, people are signing up for insurance. People are getting diabetes checked. Mammograms. Kids are getting, the molybdenum dentist came out, free haircuts, and so we have all these type of services that we try to offer for free. And most of the time we do, so that, the community can benefit from it best. And, if I come into a community that has high diabetes, that, I would like to be a partner in their journey towards well-being. I would like to be a partner in helping them bring their health concerns to the forefront. And not only bring them to the forefront, but being committed to helping them, find a way to alleviate pain or rehabilitate after an accident, or find a way to fight these addictions that we may have just because of the disadvantaged communities that we are in. You know,
that's deep, because especially when we think of that industry, I think it's a couple dominoes that came in effect when I look at this opioid crisis.
Yeah,
one of them definitely deals with that industry. Another, America's occupation or war, I don't know what America was doing in Afghanistan, but I'm very well aware that Afghanistan is the largest producer of poppy.
Absolutely.
In the world.
Yep.
And usually when American war efforts find themselves in a space, in place, with an abundant resource,
absolutely,
that resource ends up kind of proliferating itself into America somehow. I'm just somehow it happens. And you have, at one stint, like maybe like the late 90s to maybe about 2012, like the nature in which pain pills were offered to so many people suffering from usually like a car accident injury or slip and fall at a job, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Xanax and
they had another thing. I mean, sometimes they would
and-
give them 3, medications at the same time.
And basically like,
it's
hey,
sad
you want some more pain?
because
And during that point in time, it was certain clinics that were supposed to be for physical therapy that I believe were running nefarious operations for the most part. 'Cause
Absolutely.
it's like,
Absolutely.
you come in,
a lot of clinics got shut down for that.
Yeah.
A lot of clinics got shut down for that. And I think that's one thing we wanted to separate ourselves with. We have previously had a doctor in our office. We still are searching for it, but we always got to have the right type of people. You know what I mean? Because our focus is not for you to get pain medication. Our focus is to heal, and not heal in a way that'll bring you down. Because, of course, you can heal and take pain medication and this and this and that, and now you have an addiction. So it's kind of like, you're crossing yourself out, because now I'm healed, but now I have this addiction. So, yes, pain pills that are prescribed to me, but at the same time, it's, it is not beneficial to my life. So I think that it's important for us to, and one of the reasons that I like to have doctors and stuff like that in my clinic, which I usually don't, because we don't, it's so much going on. So many people are looking for certain things, but a lot of the people in my area don't have primary care physicians.
Yeah. And that's another real
They
thing.
need physical therapy and can't get physical therapy prescriptions.
Yeah.
So for us, and then, it's a crime for doctors to, it's a just as big of a crime for a doctor to under-medicate than it is to over-medicate. And I think that Detroit has a bad rep on that, because a lot of time doctors just come in this area and they're like, okay, we want to under-medicate because we think that you have a high likelihood of being addicted to opioids. Well, that's true. But at the same time, you have to have a plan to be able to get these people what they need, but not make it to where they'll come out of it highly addicted to anything. So I think that is the hardest part, because so many people from Detroit have had that familial life or that history of drug abuse. And so but the way that they handle, like, it's an opioid crisis and this, and people just getting crimes for having, and so it's a whole conglomerate of issues that comes around this opioid thing. But a lot of major cities get hit in a negative way, I should say, because it's automatically looked down on. Because more people are probably getting addicted in the suburbs than they are out here. A lot of us are fighting addiction, so they're not trying to be addicted. Yeah. That's why a lot of them don't want to take their, they may be prescribed oxycodone. They're like, I don't want to take it.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
Yeah,
my grandmother, I know that was her.
My 90-year-old grandma broke her hip. Doing something she shouldn't have been doing.
Exactly.
And she was like, I'm not taking any.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
Because they're
I'm like,
scared of it. You know, they're
broke your
really.
hip. I'm like, I can only imagine broken hip at 39, how that feels.
Oh,
so
my
broken
God.
hip at 90, I assume that gotta feel
It's
like
terrible. I mean, these people are getting, you know, they're so afraid of being addicted again that they're literally having hip replacements, no pain medication. They're literally having, you know, a whole knee replaced.
which
and no
kind
payment.
of comes back to you. So
Exactly.
you're getting some clients like this
Exactly.
in the physical therapy, which
Yes.
means you kind of got to be more on your game because you know this person probably is not taking their pain
Absolutely.
medication, and they're probably not trying to really let out the pain they're in either.
Exactly.
So you got to be more keen.
Yeah, you do.
know.
Being the owner of a physical therapy clinic, because I am not the licensed care practitioner there. I do hire physical therapists, which eventually I want to get my doctorate in physical therapy, just to be able to have that under my belt. But they have to create a specific plan of care based on each person, so that they could maximize your rehabilitation potential. Right? So you have the therapist that comes in and says, hey, based on this, they look at history, they look at this, and the likelihood of you being able to do these things. And so we have an extra level of care in physical therapy, right? Because for one, when you leave here, we want to see that you are well, or at least you are back to doing your activities of daily living. And that's the thing about physical therapy. A lot of times when you injure yourself, say you're in a car accident, a slip and fall, hurt on the job, whatever it may be, you know, you are trying to rehabilitate yourself, maybe not back to full, total potential, but at least doing my activities of daily living. I could tie my shoe. I could do my hair. I could take out the trash. People don't realize that when you injure, these things are affected in a major, major way. And so that's why when people come to me, I try to help them get the benefits and the help that they need. Because of course, you're going to probably need transportation. And a lot of times they're like, oh, well, transportation, you know, they still may drive. But if I'm injured, I want to drive as least as possible. I want to be in a car, you know, in a driver's seat as the smallest amount of, you know, you got to keep your head on a swivel when you're driving. Yeah. So, you know, we also want to get them to seek medical benefits like housekeeping, attendant care. You know, you don't, like, a lot of people get into accidents and they're like, I'm good. Da, da, da. You know, my aunt came to me one time after an accident and she had a concussion for 2 or 3 weeks. You know, that could have been detrimental.
Yeah.
That could have been very bad. So a lot of times, my point of saying all that to say is that a lot of times, sometimes in Detroit, we minimize our pain or what we're going through just because we don't want to get back to that feeling of like addiction or needing it, you know, needing something.
Feeling as though something else. And then, you know.
So I got to kind of convince people sometimes, this stuff is necessary. If you can get it.
I can see that.
Get it. You know, if you can get a ride back and forth where I'm helping you in a car, I'm helping you get out. You know, if you can get someone to come through and just clean your house, you know what I mean? You should want to get those things. If you know, a lot of people don't want to stop working. Fight for your lost wages. You know what I'm saying? Make them give you those lost wages. You getting paid up to 80 to 90% of your pay. You need that. You know, take that little time off. But a lot of times we so perplexed for the dollar. We're so pressed to make our money and continue our same lives that we've been living. And later on down the line, it'll affect you. Later on down the line, you don't rehabilitate yourself after something like that, it'll always be an issue.
And I like where we're at, and I want you to expand on that a little bit. And so you'll see in the lower third. But Premier Care Physical Therapy, that is the business. We're talking to Corina Malone.
Yes.
But with that, as like back in high school, I snapped my knee, so I had a broke leg back in high school. But it was the right age. I mean, if it's ever a right age to break your knee, I'm a teenager.
Oh, yeah.
But with it, what I've learned, even now to this day, like they even said, like the screw in your knee, you may need to have come out. So it's like a slower walk or a bop. But our bodies and our minds are phenomenal, meaning like we can overcompensate. So like we'll have pain on one side, so now we're moving too much more on the other side, and now you end up with pain on both sides because I'm overcompensating for where your physical therapy didn't stand or you didn't,
or your gait changes, you know, the way you walk, your cadence, the way you stand, you know. So and people think that these things don't matter, but it's just like if you have a cadence always to the right, imagine how much pressure you putting on that hip, that right hip. So I didn't even have a hip issue, but now I had a shoulder issue, and it's making me lean. It triggers all these other different things, So, for one, I think it's important that you, for one, seek the help and be okay with getting it. But that's why when they come to me, I try to do it in a different way. Like, hey, listen, I'm a partner. You tell me what you need. You tell me what you feel like. A lot of times it's a lot of the things that I just named. And I'm like, well, they already have stuff in place to help you with that, So I think it's kind of one of those things where, you bring people to the water and you just trying to force them to drink, because you want people to get these services. You want people to, like, if you get into an auto accident, if you don't go to physical therapy, 9 out of 10 you end up going to court, they're going to be like, ugh. You can't really be hurt if you didn't try to rehabilitate yourself and go to physical therapy. It really works, though. It really works. Premier Care, I've seen so many people. I've seen people come in there and break several things. I have a guy coming in tomorrow. His literally hand had fell off and had to get put back on. You know what I mean? Wow. So, but it doesn't have to be like that for you to come to physical therapy, I think is my main thing.
And therapy was able to heal, because that's the other thing. That as I believe, they're saying we're discovering things in Western medicine, but I'm sure probably like people in Africa, in Asia have been doing this stuff for a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just we're welcoming it into
Western medicine. Yep.
Because it was probably certain things where it just took more time.
Yeah, it's just like the yoga practice. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's what I thought about, right? I'm like, okay, so we rehabilitate. Yeah, that's cool. Do we have any more other services that we can rehabilitate them in other ways? So not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, and psychologically. So I've been trying to partner with more or create more ways for us to rehabilitate, not only on that physical aspect of it. Because physically, you're just going to feel like I need pain medication.
Yeah.
And let me take it. I'll come to physical therapy maybe a couple times, but I can't force them in. But if you change their mindset, if you change their lifestyle, if you change the way that they are moving and thinking about rehabilitating their own bodies, is better. So we try to do things like have mental health services. Like if you come into my clinic, you don't have insurance, I'll try to get you some. I don't know how, you know what I mean? Hopefully that's the white hat that I wear that, just allows you to be able to have that opportunity. A lot of people come in, they don't have it. They don't have a primary. They don't have the things they need to be able to do physical therapy. And it's sad. It's sad to see that, for one, you don't have their insurance. For two, I'm like, do you have a primary care? They don't even know what it is. It's like, so it's a lot of education going on at Premier Care. It's a lot of knowledge being shared, and aesthetically, I looked in different communities, right? Because you go to Novi, I'm in Southfield a lot, and I noticed, wow, these physical therapy places are top tier. These places where, these people, the more affluent communities are going to rehabilitate, are hands down looking, look way better than what it is. So in the Fitzgerald community, what I wanted to do is bring that same aesthetic value, that same cleanliness, attention to detail, I just wanted to bring that to the hood, I wanted to bring that to the hood. A lot of times growing up, I look at it now, we weren't offered these services, if we didn't have insurance, it's like whatever, if we didn't, go to, like I just didn't see beautiful places for us to rehabilitate. It's just like when you go into mental health services. You shouldn't have to go in and feel like you're about to go crazy just from being in there, I think that we should offer, and we should make it very important, especially as Black people, to help our neighbors, to help our communities, to bring them up. Just if you have a restaurant, it shouldn't be dirty. You don't want the kitchen dirty, the stove dirty. You want to go like you going in Troy. You want it to look like Royal Oak, and I'm not saying that we gotta, but we piggyback off the cleanliness. We piggyback off the businesses that are right, and so it's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with us bringing a clean, aesthetic rehabilitation center, because I won't even call it physical therapy, rehabilitation center right in our own community.
So with that definitely leads me to, some questions about just, you've been in this business for a while and who your clientele is. So like if a person, I guess like me, if a person's transitioning into their 40s, what should they be thinking in reference to physical therapy? What should maximize, like what type of mobility should they be thinking about, looking for, even have a balance set?
So I feel like at that particular age, somewhat going into middle age, I think that you should focus on, for one, if you are injured, because I think us being older, we'd trip up the stairs. For us being older, we may possibly, hit our knee. Something small that you think is small. You just got to check into it and make sure, because like you said, when you were 17, your body was healing. Your cells were regenerating every second. You get a cut. If you even notice, as you're older, you get a cut now, it doesn't clear up as soon as it did, back when you were younger. And so I think that we should, for one, take notice of all of our ailments, all of our issues. For one, go to the doctor. Go to the doctor is the main thing. But if you are doing that, once you do anything with your body, I think that you should always let your doctor know, because the doctor is the one who orders you to physical therapy. If I could, I'd tell people all the time, hey, just show up at my doorstep, show up at Premier Care. But even if you show up, that's the thing about me, you show up without the right things, I'm going to send you back out there to get the right things. So I think that's the benefit about coming to our clinic. But like you said, getting into an older age, I think it's very important to exercise. But even if you come do physical therapy, sometimes some people come and do physical therapy maybe 30 to 60 days, 4 to 6 weeks or something like that, right? But once they leave, we're sending them home with home exercise plans. We're sending them home with things that you could do. It's almost kind of like yoga. You come to our free yoga classes on Friday. I think we're sending you home with a nice amount of knowledge. I think we're not just like, hey, let me fix you. But okay, if you don't like us fixing you, here's a way that we can help you fix yourself. Here's a way that we think that you could benefit from some of these exercises, some of these things. So, our physical therapist, he's super knowledgeable, and he wants to share that wealth is what I call it, because I always believe, our motto is that the best wealth is health.
And so now I'm gonna flip. I'm gonna go
take
up,
it where you
up a
want.
notch to,
Okay.
to an older age, which my people that's watching that are that age. I'm not going at you. I know I'm saying Coco's 60th right now, so Coco was like, you calling me old?
Right now, not you.
I'm helping her with it. But at 60, should you be thinking? And I guess this is like, it sounds like I'm age shaming, but should you be thinking what you should or should not do? Like, where should your mindset be for mobility and what you can do?
Okay, so like I said, exercise, stay as mobile as you can for sure. But one thing about it is that I think that you have to, it's so hard for us because in this community, it's so disadvantaged, and it's so many things that we haven't had access to. But I say that to say that, like, say for instance, back in the day they told you need a cane. They may tell you, look, use this cane for 3 weeks. That's and it'll take of course people don't want to do that.
No.
Don't give them a walker. They come in my office all the time without their, what they call assistive devices. And
it's so funny. This is.
I mean, even a sling, right? Even when it's a sling, they don't want to wear it.
With my 90-year-old granny, when she broke her hip,
she a fighter.
She didn't want to use the. I'm like, this is ridiculous. You need this walker. Like this,
and it takes the pressure
what
off
are you
of
doing?
it.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
So for older people, I say, listen. They know so much. They know so many remedies. But I think that it's important for you to take heed to what people are telling you as far as if you need those type of things. Because when we get older, I mean, I get older. I had a knee brace on one day. My brother like, please get away from me with that brace.
Hilarious.
But I can't ignore it. I can't act like my knee is feeling the same. It's not. And so I think when you have issues like that, my advice is that, for one, go to your doctor if you have one. If not, come in. We'll try to get you one. But come in and you talk to them and you let them know your ailments, and then they'll think of the best. They'll tell you, hey, you need to do some physical therapy. You could benefit from doing a few weeks. Even if you don't do it, it's not anything like you're about to check into the hospital, but you could definitely, almost anybody could benefit from physical therapy for sure.
Wow.
And the way that we do it, we have electrical stimulation, ultrasound, it's all types of things, mostly exercises that the physical therapist does. So a lot of people think it's about equipment. You come into our spot, we have equipment, but we really have more assistive devices than anything. The balls, the table that kind of, we have pulleys. We just have so many different things, but it's not just about the equipment. This is not the gym. You know what I mean? We coming in, we're testing your resistance. We're testing your range of motion.
Yeah.
We have all different type of tests that we're doing to make sure that you are where you should be. But it's always things that you could do at home. Eventually, when I get some time, I always talk about we need to do, Premier Care needs to do something like what you're doing, some type of educational resource that people can tap into, so that they know these type of things. Because a lot of times, most people come to us after an injury.
And I was going to say, usually, I think I was at my homegirl. I've interviewed her before because she has a vitamin store. Yeah, it's reactionary. We're looking for a cure as opposed to prevention. So we're responding.
You got to be proactive. Be proactive in your health. Be proactive in your care. When we go to the doctor, that's why when you get into an auto accident, your regular insurance doesn't pay for it. Because they're like, regular insurance is for you to go to the doctor and get vaccinations, for you to go, check and make sure your blood is good, make sure, you don't have any pressure on your chest, things like that. But that's all proactive work, right? They're just looking to make sure that you don't look like you're on a line to being unhealthy. But I think it's very important for us to just have that proactive nature and say, hey, listen, let me go check up on myself. Hey, and then sometimes I'll have back pains for weeks. I get to the doctor, say, any concerns or issues? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Mm-hmm. And I think about it like, dang, I should have probably told her that my lower back had been hurting, or I probably should have told her. That's the hardest thing to me is like being honest with the doctor. Because if the doctor hears any of those symptoms about pain, or sometimes people fall off ladders. Yeah. Sometimes you just slip and fall in your driveway. Yeah. It's so many small things that we think is nothing. But I think it's something to always be concerned about, something to always talk about, and something to always check up on, And even if you have an issue, even if you don't have a doctor, like I said, call the physical, call whoever you think that you need to say, hey, I feel, I haven't been feeling right. Is there any way that I can get into physical therapy? And even if you don't have a PCP, we have ways to refer you to one. With or without insurance.
Most definitely. And then last question before we get into the classic Detroit is different questions. Is auto accident. You mentioned it. We see signs up everywhere. Lawyers, like especially if you get hit by some trucking company or something like that. But it's very commonplace. I mean, it's unique. I'm gonna get in my car. You about to get back in your car. Yep. I mean, they're ever present. Yes. Knock on wood. We're not gonna get that or wish that on anybody, but they're happening.
Yeah, all the time.
What should be the course of action after an accident? Because sometimes a person may have an accident and feel like, oh, I'm cool. Nothing, You know what I'm saying? I'm straight. What should be the course of action in that case, and why is it important even to or just here's the question: what should you do? Like
what
right
should
after
you do?
I'm in an accident. You know what I'm saying?
What do I do?
Obviously not an accident where ambulance is giving me the ride back. I think I'm cool.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I think that the first thing is like I said, seek medical attention. Seek medical attention.
Even if I feel cool.
Listen, I told you my aunt was riding around for almost a month with a concussion. And the doctor tried to explain to her how serious that could have been. It could lead to a number of things, especially if you have any underlying health issues. Please seek medical attention. Even if you feel okay, you can go to your primary care doctor. You don't have to go to the hospital. You don't have to be shacked up in the hospital all day. You could just say, hey, listen, I got into an accident. A lot of times people suffer from concussions, internal bleeding. I just see a number of things. Whiplash is a really bad one. It really messes up your spine when you jerk and and a lot of people feel, oh, my neck was hurting. That could be serious. It could change the whole trajectory of your spine. It could change the way that your spine moves and reacts. And because your spine is so important, I just think that it's always best to seek medical attention. But after you seek medical attention, call PCPT. Okay. And I just say that because when you get into an auto accident, that's public record. You're gonna have lawyers calling you. We like to call them accident chasers. You have all these people calling you, and you don't have a clue what they're even talking about at some point. Like, what are you calling? How did you get my number? All of that, and a lot of them are calling because it's some type of benefit for them. But at the same time, which isn't a bad thing. Everybody has a benefit for something. My benefit is that you come to my physical therapy, but I like what I do. I like bringing people back to restoring them back to their previous health. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of people think that nothing is wrong all the time. So I think that you should seek medical attention and literally give us a call. Yes. And I say that because I work as like a case manager, right? So the same people who call you on the phone, they trying to get you to sign to a lawyer. They're trying to get you to do case management. They're trying to get you to do all of this stuff. You know, you're not, if anybody tells you that they're going to pay you for it, that, you know, that's illegal, so they shouldn't, but they probably will. But all of that, you want to make sure that it's beneficial to you. And you don't want people that are just chasing accidents. You want people who are really like, hey, concerned about your care. Listen, it's something really wrong with me. You know, we have what we used to have before we just remodeled. We used to have posters up of whiplash injury, concussion, you know, what that looks like for your spine. And I think a lot of people just don't realize that, you know. So when you come to me, I'm working on all levels to not only get you into a doctor, but the doctor is the one who can disable you as far as like if you need work, lost wages, because a lot of people are scared. And that's why I say call me. Call me because I'm going to be upfront and honest about what you need to do. You know what I mean? You tell me how you feeling, what your concerns are, and I'm going to give it back to you. I'm going to shoot it to you straight. Yeah. You know, because like I said, I am from the hood. You know what I mean? I don't want to hold no bars. A lot of people be like, oh, do this, do that. You know, they may send you to a doctor, not because they think it's the best doctor, but because maybe, not that they get a kickback, but it's just kind of their little group of people who they send people to. That don't mean that was the best person for you. I take a look at your injuries. I take a look at your history. And then I determine the best places that you need to be. Yeah. Some people are better with, you know, that's why people have different insurances, right? Because this might pay for this, and that's indicative to what you need, you know. So having an auto accident is kind of one of those personal things. Everyone is different. Even if you don't have a license, even if you don't have insurance, even if you were the driver, pedestrian, passenger, 9 times out of 10, you have some rights, and you just need to know what they are. You know, we can help you with that because we have experience. We can also help rehabilitate you. We can also help you get to the doctor, the right doctor. A lot of people, I had one guy came in and the only thing he's done was go to the chiropractor. But he's thinking he's doing, like, this is going to make me well one day. So he spent all his time going to the chiropractor. He's never been to physical therapy. And so when they looked at it, you know, they cut him off from his benefits because they're like, hey, you weren't doing anything about your case. We thought you weren't hurt. So now he's trying to fight back and let them know, hey, listen, I was just told wrong. I didn't know. Yeah. So that's the reason that I say call PCPT, just because of the fact that we are so knowledgeable. We're so knowledgeable, and we're so caring and compassionate about what you're going through. You know, like, it's not a facade. It's not a game. We really care. Like, if you come in here, hey, I didn't have insurance. We're like, what can we do? You know, we're calling attorneys. We're getting advice. Because what we don't know, we're okay with that. We're constantly learning, you know. And I just think that calling us gives you a true perspective. And once you call me, you can go anywhere else you want to. You know what I mean? You can go to this place or that place. But I like to give people the raw deal, what it is, what it means when you're in an accident, what that could mean for you, what that could mean for us, and what that could mean for the other parties. You know, because this is a no-fault state. So, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to sue that, so, you know, or whatever. And a lot of times your insurance is going to be the ones to pay for it, you know. Not even your insurance. If you're in a household with someone else who has insurance, their insurance could pay for it, and they had nothing to do with it. So it's a lot of stuff like that I like to clear up, because people are thinking like, hey, but I got my own insurance. Yeah, but you live in a house with your grandmother, and her insurance is primary over there. You know, you live with your wife or this person, so, you know, you never know where it's coming from. But it's a no-fault state, and so the last person who they seek is the person who hit you. Of course, unless you have like pain and suffering, all of these other types of things, criminal, you know. That's deep. So I just like to give people a true idea and a true sense of what's about to happen. And some people are like, oh, I don't want to do this. I can't come to physical therapy 2 to 3 times a week, you know. And so I try to help them understand what that means and why it's beneficial to them, you know, and how, you know, you could go start at 3 times a week, go down to 2 times a week, go down to 1 time a week. You can go whenever you want, but you maximizing your rehab potential won't be there until you are fully committed into the plan of care that we set forth for you.
That's deep. That's
deep.
So. And you have so many other businesses. We drove down this lane.
I know.
Sometimes Detroit is different.
I know, but that's
like
good.
That.
But that's good.
But we'll definitely get you back to talk about some of the other ventures
you
definitely
have.
And here's some classic Detroit is difference.
Okay.
Your very first car, year, make, and model, and what year did you get it?
First official car that was mine, and I wasn't driving my brother's, was a 95 Escort, hot pink.
Okay.
I got it in 2003 when I went to school.
Okay.
My mom drove it down to D.C. for me. Thanks, Mom.
Okay.
Appreciate you. When I first left high school, I went to D.C., lived there for 5 years. I started out at the Catholic University of America. Going for biomedical engineering, and then from there I went to a number of community colleges before I came back and graduated from Lawrence Tech in 2017.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
All right, so in DC, hot pink Escort, they knew you was from the D.
And guess what? Got into an accident.
Ain't that
I
something?
totaled it in DC, and that was my real first time knowing anything about physical therapy. They were like pressing me to come. The accident chase was like, come. I'm like, I got to go to work. I can't miss work to come to physical.
You were the client that you're speaking to now.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
True
even
story.
Even though younger, I'm sure probably right now it may be like a something.
Yeah,
that
I think about it.
now,
I think
it's
about it
like,
all the time.
if I would have just took a couple more days.
Yeah.
Stop for 1 second. They'd be like, hey, just stretch like this. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So that's a true story. I totaled out my car, and it was totaled. So imagine it wasn't a simple accident. But when you young, you hop out that thing like, listen, can't nothing hold me down. I was in another state, so I was just very unaware. Don't be like that. If you get into an accident, 844 hit and run. Call us. We got you.
So with that, music question. You're the DJ at the end of the Detroit fireworks, Jefferson and Woodward. You get to play 3 songs. What songs you playing?
You said at the end of the fireworks?
Yep.
Gotta be careful. You want everybody to get home safely. One of my favorite songs, Jeezy. Lose My Mind. I know that's probably the wrong one after the fireworks to play, but
that's how you feeling.
That's how I'm feeling. After that, I will play. I'm a Young Dolph fan. I love Young Dolph. So I like Get Paid. That'll probably be another one. Okay. And of course, it's the end of the fireworks, and all you gotta play is Time to Go. That's my very last one. On anything.
Okay, so I'm with that playlist, hip hopping and rocking.
Yeah,
it's gonna turn a little bit into. It's gonna feel like blue for a second.
I know. I didn't want to say it,
but I'm with it. Very last question: if you could rename Woodward after one Detroiter, who would it be and why?
Woodward after one Detroiter, who would it be and why? Ooh, that's a good one. If I could rename Woodward after one Detroiter, I'm gonna be biased. I'm gonna be biased on this, but I think I would honestly say my Uncle Yacht. Like I said, that's just, me thinking quickly off the top of my dome. He did a lot for Detroit. I don't know. Like I said, a lot of people probably haven't heard of him, but Kenyatta Hunter, a.k.a. Yacht, a.k.a. Black Press, he got a lot of love in the streets. But I think he did a lot for Detroit music-wise, of course. I'm probably going to hate that I said this. I'm going to think of 50 other people later. But, he did a lot for Detroit. Street lords is just such a big part of Detroit. It's such a big part of the urban community. It's such a big part of just everything Detroit, And we didn't, I think back then, seeing it, you didn't realize what it was going to be or what it meant. But I think for the generations that came behind them, it just meant so, so much for them to have somebody from Detroit, like really from Detroit, from the hood, from these areas, to be like, hey, damn, like they kind of made it, and he didn't make it all the way as far as like probably where he wanted to be, but he worked with so many different artists, so many different people, and it just kind of opened up the scene and, made Detroit a bigger player in the music industry. And now I think a lot of them benefit from it at this point, you see people like Icewear Vezo, PZ, payroll. They all talk about, yacht and all those things. But at the same time, I don't think they really noticed under the scenes what he was doing as far as like producing, bringing things together, making big moves, bringing nobody in the Street Lords wanted to rap. You know what I mean? And so I think that he kind of was like, man, listen, he the older brother. Hey, man, y'all get out here. Y'all do this. Y'all do that. He was one of those, like, very strong on his head. And so I think it just meant a lot, probably more so for me and my family, but I think it meant a lot for Detroit as well. So
yeah, most definitely. I think it's an arc. I mean, when we think of rap in American culture right now, like or the world culture, worldwide, Detroit
they love it.
and Memphis are like, for so long, especially Detroit and Memphis, were not seen as mainstream. Whereas right now, I look at a guy like Babyface Ray, and I think that I wouldn't be surprised if he's as popular as Drake, like in a couple years.
I wouldn't either,
because like the arc of his success, and like Peasy was just in an interview talking about that. But when I think of like Detroit rap street culture, the Street Lords are with like Detroit's Most Wanted and
absolutely, of course, you can't change that. You can't change that.
And then they built a premise for what became of what the Street Lords and Rock Bottom and Herc and them dudes did over here.
Absolutely.
And then that carried on over to like where the guys are now. And Peasy just had an interview where he was shouting out my man Stretch and a lot of the other ones that like built that premise.
But I think it was a lot harder. I just think it was a lot harder in payroll. I just think it was a lot harder for them because for the artists that was before Yacht and Street Lords, because they didn't get that mainstream recognition. I mean, of course, shout out to social media and all that other type of stuff, but even before, when we were when they were doing tapes, the Street Lords they worked hard and they didn't even know what they were doing. Yeah. I don't think they really saw like the end all be all. I think they were just like, hey, like we love this. Like, the notoriety, the shows, they would be so pumped after they came to shows. One time when I was in the 9th grade is when Rollies on TikTok came out. Mm-hmm. And I'm calling Yacht every second, like, listen, I'm having a party at the VFW Hall. I need every Street Lord in the building, and they came.
That's wild.
And they came. So shout out to everybody who was at the party.
In that journey, just
I was
be close to your brother's age. It's like you were like, I was like leaving high school. I remember those feelings. But you were there.
I'm coming in trying to get my mark hole. Trying to be popular, I mean, Blade.
Beyond popular.
Now everybody knows me, but like Blade showed up and O-Dog and Rook and, G-Rock was there. We got a classic picture. So, shout out to the Street Lords. But I love them. Honestly, it wouldn't just be for Yacht. It'll be for the whole Street Lords. Really, honestly, Blade, Icewood. Because that's most of the love that people give. But if they notice anything about all of them, they all together, they all one unit. It's a brotherhood with them. And so I think that should be recognized. So not just Yacht, we'll say the whole Street Lords Mafia family.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kari. Hopefully this won't be the last.
Oh, no. We getting you back. You got more business.
We just got started.
Yes. Thank you so much.
All
Peace.
Right.
Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.